I'm on camera, I go on stages, I speak in front of audiences, I run a business. Like, this may not seem like behind the scenes it's being run by a woman who's terrified.
Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello, welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. I'm so excited today to bring a guest, Farnoosh Torabi. Farnoosh, hello.
Hello, Hannah. Welcome. Welcome me to your show. But I feel like I'm always the podcast host, so I'm always like, welcome. So yes, I'm still transitioning to the other side of the table.
Yes, I'm going to introduce you right now. So everybody, I want you to know about Farnoosh. She is absolutely wonderful. I've followed her work for a long, long time, but here's the official. Farnoosh Torabi is an Iranian-American journalist and one of the country's leading and most trusted personal finance experts. For more than 20 years, she's dedicated her career to helping people become financially empowered, lead richer lives. She's written multiple books, hosted a CNBC program, and served as the resident money columnist for the Oprah magazine. Today, she hosts the long-running Webby-honored podcast, So Money, which has earned over 30 million downloads. And Farnoosh holds a degree in finance from Penn State and a master's in journalism from Columbia University. She lives on the East Coast with her family. So welcome, Farnoosh. I am so glad that you're joining me here today.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on my show.
Oh my gosh, that was such an honor. I hope everybody listening will check out the So Money podcast if you don't already know it. But yes, Farnoosh hosted me there and we talked about how to choose a good accountant, warning signs. And
I talk about how I fired mine. Did I talk about that?
Oh, you did?
Book? Yeah, I remember if that made it or it was in the editing floor, but yeah.
It was a little bit sketchy.
He went to jail.
Oh my God.
And I saw it. I didn't know he was going to go to jail. Like, I don't know. I'm not that good of a predictor of things, but I just felt like he wasn't on my team and he was making fun of me for not knowing things. And I'm like, yeah, see, that's why I pay you the money to go know these things and get my time. I think that, if you're afraid of doing your taxes, you are normal. It is not, even the most tax experienced would say, like, it's not clear and even they struggle. So where does it leave everybody else that has other ambitions and occupations? This is a full-time job in some ways to like understand tax code. So
absolutely.
That's why the accountants, the good ones, deserve every penny. But when you get a bad one.
So there's like the scare tactic in the accounting industry, including the really big guys, like, oh, taxes are so complicated. You could not possibly understand or do it on your own. You're going to have to come to me. But it's sort of an abusive model.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it sounds like, Farnoosh, that what I love about your work is how just like funny and transparent you are about your own kind of like flaws and failures. And it sounds to me like from this accounting experience that you have a really good spidey sense. And I want to talk about that because you have this book coming out, A Healthy State of Panic. And it's kind of like spidey sense is like maybe a good starting point for our conversation because like a lot of what you're talking about in this book is about panic.
It's about trusting the fear. When you encounter a red flag, great. I love red flags because this is an opportunity to take a minute and reflect on whether it's like who you're working with, what you're about to encounter, the project you're going to take on, the money you're going to spend, and think about it a little bit more critically. A lot of times the mistakes we make is when we use fear as the adrenaline to go do the thing quickly and without a plan. Yeah. But fear can also serve us as a tool to recognize that maybe something is not adding up and we need to take a minute to reassess. And perhaps the conclusion is that you continue working with the accountant, or you continue to build the home or start the business, but to do it with more of an analytical mind, to do it with more of an understanding of what it is you want to protect, to know what risk really means to you, what risk you can afford, you want to afford, you don't want to afford, all these calculations that maybe we would skip because we are trying to avoid the fear. We don't trust the fear. But in my life, often when I just take a second to go, oh, fear, hey, what's up? I know you. You're here again. Okay, what do you want me to learn? It always works. Like there's always a benefit to that.
Yeah, I'm really curious if you how did you come to center on this idea of fear per se? Like where did that come from? It's definitely in the zeitgeist that, we talk about fearlessness, and I always found that really stupid because who among us doesn't feel fear?
Oh, it's reserved for the privileged few. I mean, if you are anyone listening who does not identify as maybe like a mediocre white man, I don't know who can afford to walk through life fearless insofar as like being carefree about all and any consequences, risks, can feel like they can and should afford all of the dangers. I mean, the world is not designed. The world's a booby trap. Like everything, every corner, everywhere you go is like, there's a potential high risk factor. So I know this intimately well. You ask how this became a book about fear, why I chose to center on fear. I know that doesn't seem natural for the woman who's been working in personal finance and who seemingly has built a life by design that has fear. Like people look at me and a lot of what I do is I'm on camera, I go on stages, I speak in front of audiences, I run a business. Like this may not seem like behind the scenes it's being run by a woman who's terrified, but I am. I don't think that things are always going to work out.
Yeah.
I don't think that everyone's going to be my biggest advocate. I don't think that everyone's going to understand me. I don't assume that there are things that are out of my control, but it's still going to be okay. And so I have always known this as a kid because I grew up as the daughter of immigrants and in Worcester in the 80s, in the 90s, when my mother said to me, I intentionally raised you to be afraid because that's the only way I knew how to keep you out of trouble.
Wow.
And of course, yeah, I mean, it was she over-indexed maybe on the fear, but it ended up where I, as a result of that, had a very close relationship with fear. And I didn't always have a healthy relationship with it, but it was a close one. It was like, I knew fear. I knew how it tasted. I knew how it felt. And when I got to be older, I realized that some of the ways that I had been dealing with fear as a kid, which was to be impulsive, be very reactive, to run, to freeze, that would be the death knell of like my career, of my relationships. Like that's not how we're supposed to deal with fear. That's not rational. That's not how you make thoughtful choices. That's not how you build sustainability in your career and your relationships. And so I had to find a newer way to do that, to have a relationship with fear that was constructive because I was running into a lot of dead ends. With my profession, I deal with personal finance, and I have found that in 20 years of working with people that whenever we talk about money, the underpinning emotion is fear. When we're worried about investing or buying something expensive like a home or a car, or even getting married and wondering how to talk about money, how to bring money into the forefront of the relationship, all that is usually laced with an emotion called fear. So what I have been working personally with fear for a lot of my life and professionally. And then in this book, I wanted to offer something that I didn't think was being discussed enough, that we weren't giving credit to enough, which is that fear can be a tool, just like a lot of other emotions that we carry. That this idea that happiness is the exclusive feeling that we must feel and like be focused on. And that's the goal. Yeah, I'm happy, but also I make room for other feelings that aren't in the happy category. I also am okay when I feel sad. I'm okay when I feel fear and grief, because I know that it's who I am. I'm being true to how I'm processing life. And the trick is to not get stuck in that. The opportunity is to sort of find your way through it. And that's what the book is about how to like talk to fear, how to have a relationship with fear, how to work through the resistance, how to use it as a tool when you're fearing one of 9 different fears, which I talk about in the book. There's 9 of them. There's like rejection, uncertainty, FOMO, exposure, money, failure, uncertainty, endings, and then the fear of losing your freedom, which is kind of what I describe as the fear of losing your self-autonomy, your autonomy. And in all of those moments of fear, in those flavors of fear, what are the questions that we can be asking ourselves to learn more about what we need in that moment to walk through life feeling secure?
Yeah. I would love to hear from you, like some place where we can tie this to an example. So can you talk to me a little bit about like, so you're talking about growing up and how you didn't necessarily have a good reaction, like fear did not necessarily bring out something good, but then you learn to harness it, right? Or learn to read it like a check engine light on your car. Yes, so can you give me an example of like a way now where fear has served you?
Yeah, sure. Well, FOMO is, I think, something we all relate to. We've heard of it, certainly, fear of missing out. And it's more of a modern day fear, I think. I mean, I'm not saying cave people didn't have fear of missing out, but I think with social media,
their bison is better than our bison.
But there's just more comparison culture now than ever before because of the internet and social media. And for me, FOMO really reared its head in my career in my 30s when I would look around and see my peers in the industry developing courses and really harnessing the internet, and really leveraging online marketing and funnels and email marketing and, making millions of dollars, they would say 6, 7 figures. And I would just
enjoy that you say they would say.
They would say,
we also know that the internet.
Yeah, there's a ... there. And I would, initially I just felt I was so disappointed in myself and so frustrated because to me, it just seemed like the shiny object, the low-hanging fruit and the shiny object. Like, why can't I do this? Everyone seems to be doing this and cashing in. And like, if I'm not doing this and I'm not drawn to this, do I really care about my industry? Am I really in it to win it? Am I competitive? Am I as good? And I really wrestled with this fear of missing out on this big business strategy.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I had lunch with one of my friends who was in this industry of building courses, and he had just had a 7-figure launch. And I know. And so I went to lunch with him as sort of a congratulations and also like to get the real story because I was going to do it. I was going to make the plunge. And he said to me, don't do it. In all sincerity, this is a lot of work that I don't particularly enjoy, but I feel like a hamster on a wheel. I feel like it's hard to stop doing this once you've done it because you have all these students. And then in the course world, it's very masculine. Sort of the energy is like, you're only as good as your last launch. So the next launch has to be even bigger. It's all about like making, bigger, the best, all the things. So
yeah,
he said, I just want to warn you that you can do it and you'd probably be successful, but you probably won't like it. And I don't want to be the one who pushed you into it. I'm being very honest with you. And yes, I made $2 million, but I also had to spend like over $1 million to get to this 2 million. So it's not, So I loved hearing that. I have to say I felt bad for my friend, but also I felt more resolute in my decision to not do it because I said, well, profitability wise, this is not, I do things that have bigger profit margins than this, right? So if that's my scorecard, I think what I'm doing is fine, but I still had my FOMO was really, and this is what I want to tell everybody, when FOMO shows up, especially in your professional life or anywhere really, the question it wants you to stop and ask yourself is, what's going on with you? And furthermore, what is the feeling that you want to experience that everyone else seems to be experiencing? The feeling is more important than the actual thing that they're experiencing. So if everyone's going to Greece and you are envious and you're feeling FOMO, the fear isn't saying, go buy a ticket to Greece if you want and you can afford it, do it. But if that's going to be difficult for you or a hardship, your opportunity here is to use that fear as fuel to determine how else can I experience that feeling of maybe it's social camaraderie, experiencing something new and thrilling, going somewhere new, testing myself, going on an adventure. There are so many ways to design that in your life. It doesn't have to be a copy paste of what someone else is doing because no two people actually are the same. And anyone who has just kind of let FOMO lead them into that copy paste, they get there and they're like, this isn't what I thought it would be.
Yeah. That course example is such a good. Yeah.
A lot of people can relate to that because the thing about the course thing too is that it's all, you can see it. It's not happening behind the scenes. It's if you're online and you're following people, you're seeing their progress,
absolutely,
their success, that you're seeing the highlight reel.
Exactly. You know what this really makes me think about? Because I was just teaching a class this week about investing, and really the class is about feelings. And one of the points that I make, I put up a slide that says buy blank, sell blank, fill in the blanks. And everybody knows, right? Everybody knows how that's supposed to go. You're supposed to buy low and you're supposed to sell high, but everybody buys high and sells low. So why is it that despite the fact that we all know what we're supposed to do, we all do the wrong thing? Why? And the answer is feelings.
Yes.
And I would say that it's fear that makes people do the wrong thing. So now I'm going a little counter here, but I want to hear your response to this. Yeah. So I think, you see your portfolio dropping and you panic, right? And you're like, oh my God, I got to sell it all, right? So you get into this thing and it's like, because everybody else is doing that. And that's literally the wrong thing to do. That's exactly what you should not. There's something, being a solid investor is actually a little bit about like kind of mitigating your feelings, almost even counteracting your feelings. So this is the thing that I've been thinking about when it comes to like, investing, especially as a woman who might be taught to be fearful around money. So I'm throwing a lot at you, but I want to hear your reaction because you're in this personal finance space and talk about investing. How do you react to that?
Yes. Great question. I talk about this in the book because fear and investing are two peas in a pod. And
they should be.
And they should be. It's unpredictable. We're talking about not just the loss of something insignificant. We're talking about money. And this is like our retirement money. So it's really painful to see that loss, to see those losing streaks that can sometimes last months in the stock market, maybe years. When the fear of money arrives, and in this case, it's the fear of an investment loss, sometimes the fear, and this is something that this is why the book is helpful, because without the book and these questions, we don't know what to do. We just think, I got to pull out. I've got to cash out. But what if I told you to ask these few questions of yourself or to do these other things instead of making an impulsive move? The first is often when it comes to the fear of money, it's to get educated, because that is where the fear is hibernating. It's where this lack of education, this lack of literacy, that's fertile ground for fear. When I don't know something, I'm more easily scared of that because it's brewing uncertainty and I don't like that. And that's scary. So I come from this place of privilege because I work in personal finance. I've studied it. I've studied the market. So I have maybe a lesser degree of fear of money, although I have other issues with money than investing, but I'm confident with investing because I know the historical trends, because I know the context. When there is, and there will be always, a period of downturn in the market, it's part of the journey. And when you're afraid, that's okay, but that you're afraid because you're just focusing on this snapshot. Yeah. As opposed to the totality of how the market generally operates, which is that, did you know this? There are more positive streaks in the market than there are negative streaks. And they're more frequent positive streaks than negative streaks. But it's our human nature, Hannah, to just focus on the negative, and we have recency bias. We know this because the scientists have confirmed, and they've won Nobel Prizes, that recency bias is a huge sort of mental roadblock, and it keeps us from being rational with things like investing, because we look at, let's say, a recent bear market or a downfall in the market as something that will necessarily happen again soon, and it will happen again a lot.
Yeah.
That, and we tend to have more of an emphasis. We latch on more to the negative than the positive. So again, that's just human nature. So part of it is just like knowing your trip ups that are irrational, knowing the history of how the markets typically perform, and have that give you the confidence that you may need to go and do the thing anyway. And here's what I also would say is that when people are afraid of investing today because it is uncertain and they don't want to experience the loss, I say that's a valid fear, but it's not enough of a fear to actually help you do the right thing. I want to raise that fear and tell you, what if you allow this fear today to do what typically people do, which is to pull out of the market. 20 years from now, you haven't invested all these 20 years. What do you have? You have nothing. And now you're 65. You don't have a retirement. And now you might have to depend on your children for financial support. You have to just depend on some Social Security, which we know is not enough. And that's scarier.
Definitely.
So sometimes it's like, go to the even scarier place, go to the deep end. And it's not because I'm encouraging people to just like, I'm not into scary movies. Like, I don't want to do this, but I see the benefit in our financial lives when we go to that deep, dark place, because that is where we get catalyzed. That is where sometimes you just have to scare yourself straight as opposed to just scaring yourself in a circle. Right? Yeah. You got to scare yourself straight to a plan to go do something about it. And if you are afraid of investing because of the uncertainty and the loss factor, then again, respecting that fear. The fear isn't saying don't do it. It's saying do it your way. Yeah. So maybe it means you don't take as much risk. You start small. You're still not sure. You have to test the waters, of course. So put in, instead of a lump sum, do it in drips, do it every month instead of one time a year. And this is how you then are using your fear in a constructive way to still go do the thing. But again, you're doing it your way.
Yeah. I like what I'm hearing from you, Farnoosh, is that using fear as an indicator, but then being thoughtful rather than reactive.
Yes. And maybe the reaction comes, but it's 10 minutes later. It's a day later. It's not like, I think sometimes we deal with fear like a mosquito has landed on your shoulder, and you just want to as a result of trying to get it off your shoulder, you've now knocked over a lamp. You've embarrassed yourself. And that's the metaphor. Like, I try to personify fear in the book to the best of my ability, to give it a look, a feel, a taste, even sometimes. And to say that it's just an emotion like every other emotion that we have. We experience happiness, we experience sorrow and grief and fear. And I think we've all evolved now to this place in the world where we're ready for a conversation about how all of it is accepted and all of it is valid. That positivity, of course, there's I want to be happy. I want to be positive. And I think really, though, the only way to get there is to recognize all of your emotions as valid. There was even a study this year that came out. It was a combination of schools and universities that looked at two cohorts, people who, when they are presented with emotions like fear and sadness and anger, and their reaction is that I'm just neutral about it, or I actually think these can be helpful emotions to unpack, they have healthier and happier lives than those who sort of recognize these words, these feelings as bad emotions and like non-starters. And I think, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychoanalyst, but it makes so much sense to me, right? Because essentially you're describing to me somebody who is comfortable in their skin.
Exactly. Right. No, and I think it's really, well, I'll just give you like paint a little picture for you. This on my morning walk, I take a morning walk and there's this urban bear population in Asheville. And I was walking around a corner this morning, I kid you not. And I rounded a corner and there was a bear right there in front of me this morning today. And then there were two more bears behind it. and I went, woo! And I had this huge like adrenaline rush, right?
Yeah.
And you should. Like, that is my body doing the right thing.
Yes.
Like
right.
That. Now, I don't want to like go through my entire workday from that point in that state. That wouldn't be helpful or useful. But in that very moment, like, there's like a decision point, right? Like, what am I going to do? There's a bear right in front of me. What am I going to do? I have to run? Like, you need to like kind of assess what the danger actually is. Like, what are my options? What's going to happen? It turns out, it was okay. And I just I was able to kind of get on the other side of the street and walk around it. And then we were done with that moment. I think the whole thing is like, think of it more, I make car metaphors a lot, but like more like a check engine light, like, hey, just look at this thing rather than forever kind of live in that state, but just recognize it is there as a signal for you. And you should assess at that moment.
Yeah. Your thought process in that moment is, I need to protect my life.
Yes.
And so am I going to start screaming? No, because that's actually working against that goal, because those bears would be alerted to you and that now you have a bigger problem. So it's about, I don't live near bears, thankfully, but if I did, and I'm afraid, I would preemptively study that. Like if I encountered a bear, because also there's a difference, right? Black bear, brown bear, like depending on the bear, depending on the gender, you react different. You're supposed to, sometimes you're just supposed to like be still.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're supposed to walk away slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Never like run and like call for help, right? Like
you're not really supposed to run. Yeah. But you're supposed to be loud and look big and not try to trigger their instinct to chase you. Which is,
but yeah, fear is our friend. Fear has been with us. We would not be here recording this podcast if it had not been for fear. I start the book out with some science because, if you don't want to take it from me, that's okay. But I trust science. And Diane Fossey, primatologist from, I think like the 80s and 90s, she traveled around with a herd of chimpanzees. And as an experiment, she discovered over some time that naturally there were some chimps that were more afraid than others in the camp. And those apes would stay on the periphery of the land to protect the people that their fellow apes from harm and being devoured. So as an experiment, she removed them one night from the periphery, and well, you know what happened. The entire herd was obliterated. And I love that story and I hate that story because I'm like, we could have probably concluded this in a different way. But her point was strong and her point was well taken, that fear is a survival mechanism, and that those who are more fearful in society, in the community, tend to know what's up.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I want to ask you a little bit about, because in this book, you talk about your upbringing. First of all, Farnoosh, I just knew that you were my people. There was something about you that was like, I feel like, and it's Massachusetts. We both grew up in Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Another podcaster, I didn't know this. I get on with her and she's like, so I'm from Worcester.
No way.
I'm from Worcester. It's the first sentence in the book. I was like, what are the odds? And she doesn't live in Worcester anymore. She lives in Miami.
Yeah. I love it. I'm from Arlington. But I know Worcester. I know Worcester well. So I wanted to ask you about just the experience of growing up in an immigrant family, like how that colored this idea. Because it seems very clear that your mom had a method, right? Like she had a certain attitude about raising you, and it seems related to that. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yes, happily. My parents immigrated here in the late 1970s for all of the things that immigrants want when they come to America at that time, which was the promise of education, more independence, freedom, They were leaving Iran, which at the time was going through a revolution, and it was a dark time and still is a dark time in that country. But they had the foresight to see that there just wasn't a bright future there for them. And they were lucky enough to be able to come to the States. My father was studying here, and upon graduating, he managed to find an employer to give him residency. And it was very difficult. Most employers were rejecting him, even with a PhD in physics, which is a rare find.
Yeah.
But it was the Iran-Contra and like the hostage situation. And we were not friends. The two countries were not friends. And so it took another immigrant, right, employer to see potential in my father and not care about the politics of the day, but really see promise in my dad. And we are so grateful. And he would tell me as I was growing up, like, we are so lucky. And it was like one person basically deciding for us that we could have a different life, because otherwise I would be in Iran, and I don't know, I would not, I'm confident to say I would not be who I am today.
Yeah.
But the irony of my parents' journey here is that they took great risks to come here. They flew 6,000 miles. They left everything they knew. They left their parents. My mother was just shy of 18 years old when she moved here. So,
wow.
I mean, couldn't speak the language, didn't have a license, newly married, newly pregnant.
Wow.
And we settled in Worcester, Massachusetts. And at that point, I think that they were so done with taking risks. Yeah. They were like, no. The key to a secure life is just staying home. So we didn't,
I get that after what you're saying.
Yeah, we didn't go to the beach. We did not risk anything. And as a kid, my mom, again, she was my primary caregiver because my dad was often out and, working and making money. And so she and I were just like, we'd learn Sesame Street. We learned English watching Sesame Street together. We'd take long walks because she didn't have a car in the beginning, and I was her translator. And she said, I raised you to be afraid. She would tell me all sorts of scary stories about the world's a scary place. There are strangers everywhere. Don't talk to people you don't know. Don't take food from people you don't know. Don't take food from your friends at school. No, you can't go on the sleepover. No, ice skating. Are you trying to kill yourself? No, you can't watch Punky Brewster. No, you can't eat sugary cereal. Like, it was all no. And I got used to it. And it was hard at times, especially as I got older. And I really, like, your social network is everything, your friend network. And I couldn't do the other things that kids were doing. It was really difficult. I had a unibrow. I mean, we could go on. I wanted to change my name. I took a razor to my unibrow at age 11. Like, it got pretty ugly. But as my mother likes to say, it all worked out, didn't it? And it did. But it wasn't without a bit of unlearning and reparenting and reorienting my relationship with fear. But the foundation was there. And for that, I give my parents a lot of credit.
Yeah, I love that. That's incredible. I mean, the bravery of doing that is unbelievable. And then what it's like a whole other story, what you grew up with and your because you didn't go through what your parents went through. You just had the reaction to it.
Yes. And, there were many times, especially in my 20s, when I was struggling at work and feeling a lot of pressure at work. And I would think, I am so scared of failure because what's my excuse? My parents came here with a lot less and made it. And so, my boss doesn't like me. I don't have enough money to go out, but I'm still living in New York and I still have a great job and I still have my health and I've made it in so many ways. And so there were lots of moments where fear of failure was like actually the moments where I had to check in with my reality. And I credit being the daughter of immigrants has taught me how I have no excuses.
That's hard. That's a lot of pressure.
It's a hard thing. And I say that gently. I don't mean to say that and have everyone interpret that as like, you should burn the midnight oil and you should just be pain, no gain. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I think it's just a blessing and a great reminder that life is a privilege. Life is abundant. My parents came here and they planted seeds, and I'm I'm an example of what they worked hard for.
Yeah.
I'm the fruit of their labors. So,
well, it's true.
And so if I'm having bad days, it's fine. I mean, I'm going to recognize the grief and I'm going to work through the emotion and the pain, but I'm not going to, I have such great role models, right, in my parents. And if they can make it, I kind of feel like I can too. Does that sound cheesy?
No, not at all. I mean, well, I wanted to run this by you because as you know, I'm writing a book proposal right now. And so I've been doing some research about capitalism, and having kind of grown up as this like punk rock artist who was very anti-capitalist and turned into a person who like my baby is my business and I teach other people how to like run businesses. Like it's quite a transformation. So, but I feel like working through the vehicle of capitalism, if you could do the good you want to do in the world through a business in a country that just makes business so easy, you just face a lot less resistance. So this is my sort of like conclusion that I've been coming to over the years. And I was looking up the statistic that 44% of Fortune 500 companies in the US were started by the children of immigrants. Mm-hmm. And to me, for one, I'm like, yep, that makes complete and total sense. But I think what I see a lot of privileged people who maybe were, not from families who went through what your parents went through, kind of be really, really down on this country. But my point is like, there is something really incredible about the opportunity that this country does have to offer people. Yeah. And I like helping people see it, yes. And we also need to like grab a shovel and pitch in and do the work of making it better because it's not working for everybody. But that statistic about 44% of Fortune 500 companies being started by the children of immigrants just says to me like, not everybody's down on the US. And like, there are some things here that are like, oh, right. like things that are working.
And to hopefully give people a reminder that our country is built on the backs of immigrants, right? And when we get down on immigration policy, it's like, but then we're just forgetting who we are ultimately, right? And I wanted to make clear in the book that, life is not easy. And that's kind of the point. Like, if you're afraid, it's because the world is a scary place. And that's a valid way to feel sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like that it sounds like you're addressing kind of reality. Like a lot of what I hear you saying is like you're looking at the world through a sort of position of gratitude, not taking things for granted, and understanding that these like what could be seen as really negative feelings, like fear.
Hard things happen. And I did a column for Katie Couric's newsletter it was a reaction piece, an op-ed to a TikTok that went viral. It was a mom who was in her 50s who was really upset. And what her main gripe was that her adult children who went to college and worked hard are not able to, quote unquote, make it on their own. They're living with her again. They can't pay their car payments. They can't even make rent, obviously, because they're living with her. And she's like, but they're working. And like, I don't understand. It worked for me. I went to college. I worked hard. I got a house and everything worked out for me. I'm using air quotes, and my kids just can't get a leg up, and they did everything I did. And I don't know what else to do. And I don't think it's their fault. I think it's like, she was kind of just disappointed and frustrated with the economy, which I get. And I think that's not the reason that her kids are having a hard time is largely due to our economy and our systems. But I said, while you were encouraging your children to work hard, did you also tell them that the world is terrifying and that some things don't work out even though you worked hard, that some things don't work out just because you went to college, that maybe in the 80s, that was more of a sure bet, not anymore. And I credit my parents for showing me the world through that lens of there is going to be tough. There are tough times. We're going through them right now. There is adversity. We experience it every day. They didn't even have to tell me. I would see it. Right.
Yeah.
And, so that toughness back then ended up being a tool for me as I got older, never accepting that things were just going to work out because I showed up and put in the work.
Yeah.
You'd like to, sometimes it did, but a lot of times it didn't. I got laid off. Was that my fault? No. Right. I tried to start another business and I had to close it. And there was, in hindsight, maybe some things I would do differently, but by and large, that failure was a collective failure. There were other vendors and players in that business that didn't do their part, and I couldn't have forced them, and it just didn't take. And I didn't want to continue trying to make it work because it was taking from my health and my time from my family. And so I made the choice to shutter it. But it's not because I didn't work hard enough. It's not because I didn't deserve it. It's not because, I think that if we just focus on that all the time, like, it's no wonder we get down on ourselves. It's no wonder it leads to depression. It's no wonder that we feel hopeless. But if you come at life with this expectation that putting in the work is like 75% of it, but also there's a 25% factor window of like uncertainty, and how you're going to, and your success is really hinged on that, how you're going to navigate that uncertainty.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I love it. I love it so much, Farnoosh. So tell me, as we wrap up, I want to just ask you, who is this book for? It sounds so exciting. I'm so excited for it to come out. Tell me who is the reader you were picturing? Tell me about it.
If you are someone who, like me, grew up reading and being told that fearlessness is the way, fearlessness is courage, and you tried to be fearless, but it didn't always work. In fact, it might have even backfired. This book is for you. This book is going to give you the permission slip you've been wanting, that you didn't even know you wanted or needed, to honor your fears. And it's also for the person who's at a crossroads in life, high stakes to do with money, relationships, work, health, and they're scared. And again, for good reason, but they want to know how to use that fear constructively. This book is for you. If you want great storytelling, if you want to laugh, if you want to cry, if you want to learn more about me because you're nosy, this book is for you. And if you want to see yourself represented for the first time in a long time in a book about money and work and culture, then I would love for you to read this book.
I love it. That's just the perfect place to end this. Thank you so much. So Farnoosh, tell me, your book, which is out now as this podcast drops, the book will be out. Where can people get your book? It is called A Healthy State of Panic. Where can people find it?
You can go to ahealthystateofpanic.com.
Awesome.
Where I've listed all the major booksellers. And if you buy the book before the pub date, October 3rd, make sure you go to that website and submit your digital receipt or your paper receipt, and you will get instantly access to my program called Scared Smart. It's a 3-video series. It comes with the introduction to the book, 3 videos, and a workbook that works you through the fear of money. It gives you a head start on chapter 6.
Wonderful. I love it so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, Farnoosh. Congratulations on your new book, A Healthy State of Panic. I'm so excited. I've read excerpts. It's so funny. It's so personable. I just love it. I can't wait to read the whole thing.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.